So I was at a car show the other day, and there's a young kid, and he walked up to a Lamborghini Countach, something in the 80s era car, and he's probably 8, 10-year-old kid, didn't know a lot about cars, but he was absolutely enamored with that car. It was just the most stunning thing that he'd ever seen. And I think this car is going to be one of those cars that 25, 30 years from now, a little 8 or 10-year-old kid can walk up to and say, this is the most stunning car that I've ever seen. It really is. There's a lot of cool, I know this is a race car. It's not a street car. It's not designed for anything like that. But something happened in the design of this car is that they determined that it's okay for something to look good. Everything to be fast doesn't have to look like a Senna. Because it's probably, and really, seriously, in the list of ugliest cars ever built, Senna is going to be in that top visually. Yeah. I mean, I love the Senna because it's built and designed and shaped like that on purpose to achieve a goal. And I would own one based on the fact that that's what it's all about. I would look over the fact that it's not a very attractive car because it's functional. It's like every Formula One car that you ever see. If you really think a Formula One car is attractive, then wow, you really have problems because especially right now with that halo thing going on, they're not very good looking cars.
I wouldn't kick that out of bed.
Well, I'm just saying is that to me, the most attractive era of Formula One cars was like the Lotus 49s.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, come on. Yeah. That's a beautiful, beautiful car. You know that. But this car, it actually has a Countach look to it.
And the tail lights.
Back. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you take a look at the back of it. It's got that whole look to it, and they're playing off that really well. And this is a race car. You know what I mean? Totally. So it's not, there's no creature comforts whatsoever involved with this thing. But I've noticed a lot of styling changes on this car, and for good reason. If you look at the old Evos, when they raced, they always had a tremendous amount of rear wing in the car. And I thought, wow, I mean, they're really trying to offset the fact that back end of that car needs some downforce. Well, if you take a look at this car, I've never seen plywood-sized pieces of carbon fiber in the back of this car to try to create downforce in the back of that car. So obviously, they've probably fixed that problem with the car. And I'm sure that this year we'll probably see a lot less attack in that rear wing than we've seen before as a result of that. I mean, the back of this car looks crazy now.
Yeah, it does. I mean, even with some of those floating fenders that they have now and aero blades that are back there, it looks really cool. And I think the one thing to note here is that Lamborghini's really urged to racing in style is what they were trying to attack with this EVO2, because this is actually the third generation of the Super Trofeo series. It started with the 610-4 and then went to the Evo, which gave it that aggressive look, those huge scoops in the front of the hood, or I guess you could say louvers. But this is a third edition of it. And the EVO2 is really just dynamic aero changes and styling cues on the car.
Well, when they came out with this car, they were basically, like I said, it's an Evo, it's an evolution of it. But at the same time, this car in other series is doing really well.
Yeah.
So this is more than just something that's designed to look cool. This is something that they're really spending a lot of time on. And I like one of the things that I see is really neat is that the rear tire louvers up on the top, those look replaceable, which is nice because those bust out all the time. And we had one episode where we talked about the Le Mans cars where they had basically the tops of the fenders were completely wide open because they made it illegal for you to bust those out, and everybody would just make them so they busted out and the pieces would fly all over the track. So that, well, there's a picture of it now. You can see the top of the fenders wide open, and because you'd get more downforce that way if you can relieve that. So they would make all those pieces fly out. Well, the same thing here is that you're probably going to learn that it's better to not even have those louvers in there at all. So they're probably going to have them so that they bust out, and then you can put the pieces back in later on.
Yeah, sure.
They're easily replaceable.
Did you know that so when the first styling cues that you saw that was done for the Evo, the original Evo, not the Evo2, Dallara Engineering.
I didn't know Dallara did that. Okay, well,
new carbon fiber bodywork that created a sleeker surface for the Huracan Evo.
Oh, I didn't know that. See, Delara, if you know anything about, well, if you're watching this show, because this isn't a show for pansies that, just shiny car stuff. We talk about technical stuff here that's a little beyond what most people will even understand, or even care to talk to. They're talking about colors of paints on some of these shows, and oh my God, I need to hit the fast forward button. But Delara, if you know anything about them, very talented company that really knows. They've got a new car coming out too, and we're going to cover that pretty soon as well. But until then, I need a drink.
Cue the whiskey, girl. One thing that we mentioned also is that on the EVO2 is a new braking system, which I think you were checking into, and there's a ton of stuff that goes around this. It was developed by Squadra Corsa, so Lamborghini's own.
Well, there's a couple of cool things that they did with this car because as a road course racer, I love brakes. I love lots of brakes. I love for them to last a long time. And what they did with this, they not only made the rotors bigger. They were a 15-inch rotor on this car, and that's up to 15.4 inches now. But they've got more pad area now. You get a longer pad on the thing. You can clamp better without creating as much heat, and you got more pad so that it lasts longer as well, which I think is a really fantastic thing. I mean, it shows that they're not making a show car. It's like when everybody said that the Tesla was going to go run around the Nürburgring. Who cares if it goes around the Nürburgring one time or two times? Yeah, let's see it go around 5 times.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah, exactly. People go, oh, it'll beat your car in a drag race. Well, my Lamborghini is not a drag race car. Let's go race around Sebring 3 times in the summertime around the course. See how well you do.
There we go.
Yeah, I bet it can't make more than 2 laps in the summer.
Right.
Sebring is brutal heat. But this car, obviously vents everywhere. It was interesting when I showed my wife this car because there's all kinds of stuff stuck on it. And she says, well, it looks like it was designed by the engineers at Lego. And that's the thing is that you have to have these appendages that stick out of the car. They have to stick out of the car. You can't have everything flowing and smooth, etc. They've got to come out and take a bite.
Wind goes everywhere.
It's like when we talked about the 620R earlier, where they were talking about the fact that they've got the scoop placement just right so that it reaches out and it grabs the edge of the air, and then it allows the air behind it to form behind it. If they did a real smooth, kind of a roll radius on it, the air gets turbulent on the top of it no matter what you do. So you've got to have those appendages. They got to reach out and grab air and shear it, and then that's the effective way to move that through there.
Yeah.
And they've done a lot of cool things on this car, and I'm excited to see how it does in 2022 coming up because it's a 2022 model. So I think that they're moving farther forward than just about anyone in motorsports right now, and that's saying a lot because Porsche's always up to stuff too, but it seems like Lamborghini's moving ahead of them now, to me.
Yeah, and the neat thing is that you saw, or you're already seeing that they have a good platform or a foundation for this racing team, the Super Trofeos, and that's what this car is just continuing to build upon. And so, once you have that solid foundation with the motor, the suspension, the way that the steering, everything that gets in there, the braking. Then you're just looking at aerodynamics and styling cues and trying to pick up that extra edge, which is what they're continuing to do. It's really neat.
And they've got their powertrain really figured out. It's a 5.2-liter V10, and it makes 620 horsepower at 5.2 liters. That's really high horsepower per cubic inch for something that's supposed to be reliable, which is really proven to be almost completely bulletproof.
Yeah, so far,
and of course, speaking of bulletproof, sequential X-Track transmission. You can't go wrong with an X-Track. If you know anything about racing, exactly, just about everyone uses that. X-Track is in about anything anymore. And I know it's a 6-speed box, but to tell you the truth, when you race around in a road course car, get an engine with enough torque that you can do it in about 5 or 6 gears, because that extra 7th gear makes so many more gear changes required per lap.
Sure.
If you did some averaging, I think that you would find the car would, if it had a little more torque, could offset that extra gear and the extra gear change and the annoyance of it. I've got one car that's got a 5-speed in it, and I've got another car that only has a 4-speed in it. Whereas the 4-speed car, you only use 3 gears. Whereas the 5-speed car, you're using 4 gears and sometimes the 5th gear because you're dropping down into low to actually use it for. And man, it's a lot of work. I mean, you'll get done at the end of the weekend and your knee is just worn out from shifting.
And that's compared to just the Huracan, the street car, has a 7-speed dual clutch. In case you guys didn't know, that's what he's referring to.
And that's what I'm saying is if you get so you're shifting all the time on that, and it really takes a lot of the fun out of driving the car because you've got a lot of stuff to do. And I don't turn any nannies, all that nanny helper control stuff is turned off because I just don't trust it. I was out on the street with you were with me.
Yeah.
And we took off, and I said, hey man, get me a video of this. We're gonna do this big long smoky burnout with the car. And I forgot to shut the traction control off. So I punch it down to do the big long smoky burnout, and it moves about a car length, and the system shuts down and it comes back up. And then you're looking like a dork, you know. So if I could just keep all the time defeat on that stuff, I would, because I know how the car drives.
Right.
I know what it's going to do. And when this
Experienced
stuff is,
drivers.
well, yeah, I know. You almost need to qualify some of these guys and say, hey, you know, you don't have the level of talent yet, so that you can disable this.
Right.
You know, it's getting to the point on some of these cars. Some of these things are serious rocket ships.
Yeah, they are. I mean, even this is a rocket ship, so.
Do you hear an alarm going off? I definitely need to wash my car. That's the problem. You know, I mean, you get performance cars like this, you know, these real high-end crazy cars, and you know, they just sit. I mean, people don't do anything with them. They buy them and they sit around, they don't do anything. This car here is designed to be used.
Yeah.
It's designed to, you're going to beat on this thing, you're going to race it, you're going to do everything with it that the thing is designed to do, because nobody's going to spend $305,000 on a car to just sit it around when it's designed to be raced and beat on.
It needs to, yeah.
Exactly, because they're gonna say, well, I can't take it out on the street, so why are you buying it? You know what I mean? So this is the neat thing about these cars is they're going to get used, they're going to get beat on, and you're going to enjoy it. And and if you've been to these Super Trofeo races, you're a big fan.
Oh yeah, I've been to a couple of them.
Tony hits them when they're around the neighborhood, and they're fantastic because you're hearing V10 screaming around. I mean, we've talked about this before. Where are you going to hear that? I mean, Formula One doesn't have that sound anymore.
No.
When the Super Trofeo cars sound better than the Formula One cars, I mean, come on. You know what I mean? And that's really, you know, people talk about, oh, my electric car goes really fast. I don't care. Half of the fun of going to the races is the sound.
The sound, the emotion.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And speaking of emotion, this car brings it out of you. I mean, this car's got a lot of just real serious appeal that I really love. That, you know, you walk up to it and it's got the spine in the back. It's got a lot of cool, crazy stuff. Like I said, it's got that
small
look
LED lights in the front and the back.
I love the new headlights.
Crazy.
I mean, that's really
I hope
stunning.
that carries over to the road car.
Oh yeah, if it did, yeah, I love that design. It really works for the car. I mean, we probably get into this thing now, but in the styling department, I still can't rate this thing super high, because to me it's still styling for the sake of being a race car. But we're going to get into that when we get into the toaster roast section. You had one more thing that you were going to talk about.
Just the fact that, you know, this is 400 cars built so far for the Super Trofeo, the Huracan series, over 1,000 drivers in the Super Trofeo Cup. So again, just to, it's a proven car. So they can just keep going, getting better from here, and just keep going up.
Yeah, it is crazy because they say that they made 400 cars and they logged 950 drivers, but I guarantee you there's been more people in that than have been reported.
Sure.
But guys are sharing cars and going out and doing their deal. So a lot of people have been in these cars, and these cars are out there. So the neat thing is when they start going up for sale, because like the 458, the 458 race cars are for sale now, you buy those for 150 grand. And I mean, that's a really fantastic buy. And I'll bet you these will run right into that same range, about half of what they normally are.
I wonder what that takes to road convert it.
It would be cool to have a road version of this. All right, this time, let's hear a squealing noise. Now, we talked about the styling of this a lot, and I think that it's important to understand with this car is that it's not a styled car. So I can't give it a real high rating. And I know it's an attractive, I know it's a good-looking car.
Centro styled it.
I know, but it's not. It's still a cool-looking car. But honestly, my wife wouldn't want to go out on a date in this.
Well, I don't think any girl would want to go on a date in this.
I'm just saying is that you can't. So you can't say that it's an attractive car. It's just a cool-looking car.
Yeah, it's a cool car.
Okay, that's probably the best way to describe it. So I'm gonna go right at it with my styling on, and it's not gonna be very good because if somebody said as a race car, I would give this thing an 80.
Okay.
Okay, and so if somebody said, okay, it's as a street car, it's like in the 50s someplace.
Oh wow!
Because it's really not. It's too much. It's like I've got way too many gold chains on. You know, as a street car.
Never.
So in styling, I'm going to go someplace in the middle, and I'm going to give it a 68.
Oh wow! Okay, we're not far off.
So not awful.
Yeah.
But it would be, if it was just a race car, it would be really high for me. It's like the SVJ. The SVJ somehow hit a line between being a really cool looking race car and a really cool looking street car. This went over the line to me. It went too much race car, which they had to do because
it is a race car.
It's a race car.
Yeah.
So it hurts it on styling, even though to me it's extremely attractive. It doesn't cross the line enough that I could deem it as something that I could use on the street.
Right.
But if somebody did want to sell me one later on when you're done driving it and I could figure out a way to get plates on it, man, I would do it. Absolutely. Yep. Where are you at?
I gave it a 72. I mean, when I first saw the Super Trofeo, the Evo, when it came out in 2017 or 2016, I guess it was, I thought it was crazy looking. I thought it was great. I loved the way they widened it, just the intakes, the scoops, everything on it. So this is just obviously the second version of that, and that's why I gave it a 72, so it'll help even that out.
In performance, this one's going to be tough because it's not a crazy high powerful car. It's got a lot of cool aero on it.
Yeah.
So it visually, I mean, if you were a 10-year-old kid and you looked at this, it would be a 100. You know, I mean, you'd think that this thing is just insanely crazy fast, but it's not. It's maximizing a lot of its availabilities. So it's got great aero for a 600 horsepower car. It's got the right power level for the car for the series that it's in.
Yeah.
I think, and I'm going to give it a pretty decent number. I'm nervous about seeing it this year because I've given a lot of credit to this rear aero on this car to see if we can get a lot of this rear wing out of the car, because it always annoyed me watching the Evo run around and I would see him on the track and I just see all this attack on the rear wing and I just see drag. All I see is drag and I'm like, man. So I'm excited to see this year to see if that wing is a little flatter so it's a tweaking device instead of a main aero device.
Yeah.
And with all the rear stuff they got going on in the back, I'm hoping to see that rear wing a lot flatter, and then this car will be even a higher performance. So with that in mind, it should have bigger speeds as a result of less drag. So I gave it a pretty decent number. I gave it a 77.
Oh, wow. Wow, we're actually very close on that. I give it an 80. I mean, again, it's a track car, so, you know, it's fast. It's already proven itself, you know, time and time again with all these races that it's winning. So, I mean, to me, 620 horsepower, 5.2 liter V10, you got my vote.
Good job, Lamborghini. You got a toast. Congratulations. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. And you know what they say. If you have an opinion that's different than ours, keep it to yourself.